Come on in, sit back and relax. You're listening to episode 287 of the Wealth Tech Today podcast. And I'm your host, Craig Iskowitz, founder of Ezra Group Consulting. This podcast features interviews, news, and analysis on the trends and best practices all around wealth management technology. And my guest for this episode was Arnulf Hsu, founder and CEO of GReminders. Now, some of the key takeaways, some of the things we spoke about on this episode were an overview of GReminders, some of the things that it can do, its capabilities. You can hear all about it. Some of the things they're adding, AI capabilities that they have enhancing it with, some of the big deals they have recently signed, and their roadmap. So we've covered a lot of ground. Really good conversation with Arnold. Also, I wanted to add, since we recorded this podcast, GReminders announced new integrations with leading CRM platforms, including Accelerate, Quiver, Smart Office, Envestnet Tamarac, and SS&C Salentica. Additional integrations and workflow productivity platforms, including Microsoft Dynamics, Monday.com, Asana, and Notion. So you can check out, there's a press release. If you just do a web search for GReminders and CRM, you will find that. I wanted to throw that in there because we didn't have time to talk. We didn't get to talk about it because it was just announced. And these changes that are occurring in the industry are just constant. They never stop, which is one of the reasons why you need some objective advice for your tech stack to support your business growth. And here at Ezra Group, we've seen the tech stack of literally hundreds of RIAs and broker-dealers. Let me tell you, most of them are loaded down with tech debt. Now, let's face it, tech debt can act like an anchor, holding down your RIA's efficiency and ability to scale. Now, if you want to free your firm for exponential growth and get some good advice about new technology, you need to run, not walk to our website, EzraGroup.com, and click on the golden Contact Us button on the homepage. The experienced team at Ezra Group can evaluate your current tech ecosystem, deliver targeted recommendations, optimize your existing platforms and software, and your operations, even run an RFI or RFP to help you implement new software and get your firm to the next level. Ezra Group just makes your tech stack better. You can take advantage of our free initial consultation by going to our website, EzraGroup.com. And now, standard housekeeping chores. Subscribe to this episode podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, yada, yada, yada. Check out our sponsors, the Invest in Others Foundation at investinothers.org. And if you are a software vendor in our space, please go to our vendor portal, EzraGroup.com/login, and you can register your application for our Wealth Tech Integration Score, and you'll be able to update all of your integration capabilities. So we have all the latest data, which is very important if you want to get a good score, such as GReminders. And GReminders, you can check it on the website, EzraGroup.com, has a Wealth Tech Integration Score of 9.3. They're in the top 1% of vendors with integration. So you should be like GReminders and log on to the EzraGroup.com website, integration portal, and update your integration data. All right, let's kick this thing off. This is it. I'm introducing my next guest. Happy to talk to Arnulf Hsu, founder and CEO of GReminders. Arnulf, how you doing, man?
Very good. Thanks for having me, Craig.
I'm glad you can make it and glad you could be here. And I pronounced your name right. I said Arnulf, but people call you Arnold as well, right?
They do. I go by either, so either's fine.
I like interesting names. I'm into genealogy and people's names. And where's Arnulf from?
So it's a German first name and it's Chinese last name, so it's a mix. And so just sort of your challenges with pronunciation and so forth, but it's very unique, and you probably won't find anybody else with that combination.
And that's a benefit. I know I'm the only Craig Iskowitz on the internet. It's very helpful to have a unique name.
Yeah.
Cool. So Arnulf, give us the 30-second elevator pitch for our GReminders.
Sure. So we're the only AI-powered end-to-end meeting management platform for financial advisors. And let me just break that down for you a little bit more specifically. So we kind of look at everything through the lens of a meeting lifecycle. So it starts with understanding the cadence that you have with your clients. You meet with them once a year, twice a year, maybe 4 times a year in the case of super high net worth or something. We can automatically reach out to them, make sure that they get onto your calendar. We have an enterprise class scheduling system that allows clients to basically self-book. You set your hours, all the sort of knobs and dials that you want to support. They get onto your calendar. We would kick off automations and workflows within systems that you use today, CRMs, Redtail, Wealthbox, Salesforce, Dynamics, all the overlays, et cetera, et cetera. We also make sure that your clients actually show up to the meeting. So we send them email, SMS notifications, et cetera. Before the meeting, you as the advisor get a pre-meeting brief. So we aggregate all of the things that have happened since the last time you met with them, notes, activities, tasks, all of the stuff that has gone on since the last time you met. We put it into a nice pre-meeting brief. If you have additional questions, you can essentially ask. There's an AI assistant component that sits on top of your CRM. You can ask any questions you want on top of your client. Once you are in meeting, you have a note taker product that joins meetings virtually or in person, transcribes, summarizes, action items. All of that stuff is captured for you and then pushed back to your CRM. So it sort of completes that meeting lifecycle and then automates some email follow-ups post-meeting. So again, kind of end-to-end meeting management, if you will.
And you have moved quite fast in the space because I was looking at my notes and Michael Keatsis and I manage the map, the Keatsis Ezra Group Advisor Tech map together. In fact, we just had our call this morning for the April map. And I was looking at notes and we added you to the map in June of 2023. So you've moved pretty fast in a short amount of time, my friend.
We have. We didn't start as an end-to-end meeting management platform. We really started in the client notification space around SMS, email reminders, really around events, and expanded into scheduling, expanded into post-meeting stuff, and recently added with the advent of AI and note taking and so forth. It was a puzzle piece that fit very neatly into our story. And sort of kind of completed this meeting life cycle. So yeah, I mean we are evolving very rapidly. AI space is evolving immensely rapidly, and we release stuff every 3 or 4 days. So if you look at our release notes, you will see continuous improvements and enhancements on a weekly basis.
That is impressive. And in this short amount of time, you've reached over 2,000 advisors and 450 RIAs. So how did you get this rapid growth in what's becoming a very crowded space?
So we generally think that a smaller technology stack that is better integrated is better than a whole bunch of point solutions. And so we're actually in the camp of buy less software. Buy software that works well together, and we're big on interoperable systems. We believe in data flowing back and forth, and if you ever want to leverage AI and analytics for anything, quite frankly, you better have reasonably high quality data that can be accessed across systems. And so to that end, when it comes to scheduling, for example, there are horizontal players out in the market that do scheduling, and they're not bad, but they're not built for wealth management, right? And so they don't integrate with the systems that financial advisors use every day. They don't integrate with Redtail, they don't integrate with Wealthbox, they don't integrate with some of the overlays and so forth on the CRMs. They don't integrate with engagement platforms like Precise FP and Nitrogen. They are not compliant in many cases. So we integrate with Smarsh and Global Relay and a whole bunch of other systems like that. So we've done a ton of stuff on the integration side to better support scheduling, client notifications, those types of things. And so there was a gap in the market, and quite frankly, we're sort of benefiting from that. And with the advent of AI and being able to get transcripts and summarize them and pull out salient, meaningful information, it's added a ton of value there. And again, I think the market has embraced it. We're growing 130% year on year. And just very happy with the customer base and the market that we're in. And again, we continue to just focus on this space. We don't focus on any other verticals or industries.
So I was interested in some stats you shared that you believe you're saving advisors 6 hours per client per year. How do you quantify that?
So you talked about the Kitsa survey, and we referenced that quite a bit, right? And so there was part of the survey that was put out, I think late in 23, talked about where advisors spend their time, right? So it was meeting prep, 4 hours per client per year in meeting prep, 3 hours in meeting follow-ups, again, per client per year, 3 hours in client check-ins, and 4 hours in client correspondence. And we kind of ran a survey using that as a backdrop and are seeing about a 45% reduction in those four categories: meeting prep, meeting follow-up, client check-ins, and client correspondence. And assuming an advisor is running 100 clients, which is typical, some more, some less, you're talking about 6 hours saved per client per year, again, across those four categories, which effectively gives you about 3 to 4 months of working time back. That is a very meaningful pickup in efficiency, in an industry where organic growth is tough. Really, time is one of your biggest constraints. And so if you can take that time, either put it against revenue AUM generating activities, or you can slow down as well and just focus on sort of life. But AI and automations gives you a lot of time back, and it should be leveraged. Like, nobody got in this business to go do a bunch of admin stuff. Like, let AI and automations do a lot of that for you.
We hear that all the time, and we see the surveys showing that advisors are spending less than 50% of their time on client-facing tasks and too much admin. So certainly these types of tools like yours can free up some of that time either to do more work or maybe to go play golf or go hang out with your kids because you can get your work done during the day in less time. So do you see that advisors using the tools that way? As AI is evolving, as you're seeing it evolving, and your tool becomes more sophisticated, how are advisors adjusting their workflows and the processes?
Yeah. So one of our core principles is minimizing change management, right? So change management is really, really difficult to do, like how you operate. And so for the most part, we operate as a background service, right? And so a lot of the things that were being sort of done manually, they're just not doing anymore because the system is doing it for them, reaching out to their clients, getting something on their calendar, making sure that they show up, kicking off workflows within their CRMs, joining meetings. They're still having client meetings. It shows up on their calendar. They show up, they prepare. Just a lot of those things that they were doing, either they're no longer doing because automation is taking care of that for them, but they continue to operate in the same way. They're still working with Outlook. They're still working with Google Calendar. They're still working with Redtail Calendar. They're still working in the same ways they were working, but they're just working in a much more sort of efficient way. And so we spend a lot of time trying to work better in the background, and only when you actually need to interact with the software, for example, maybe post meeting, you need to review the summaries and maybe assign some tasks, look at some opportunities that were suggested, those types of things. But generally, again, very much kind of a background system, and so they're just getting that time pickup sort of organically.
So the AI note takers are exploding in our space. I mean, Michael and I, as I mentioned, we did our call this morning for the April map, and I believe there were three more AI note takers just today that being just this month being added. So it's exploding. So and also you integrate with Wealthbox and Redtail. Both of those companies, both Wealthbox and Orion, have announced their own AI note takers or AI assistant tools. So how does this impact your product roadmap, your marketing, your pricing?
Yeah, sure. Um, so we are not just a note taker, right? So again, we kind of focus on the whole kind of meeting life cycle. Note taker is an element of what we do. We certainly have customers that perhaps are using other note takers and so forth. So that's not our only value proposition. Again, we think a smaller tech stack that is better integrated, makes a lot of sense. So to the extent that folks are using our scheduling and so forth, not having to buy another point solution or something, sort of, brings it into sort of more of a platform approach. Yes, the note taker market, without a doubt, is relatively crowded. We see new entrants all the time. And probably long term isn't sustainable for all the vendors in the space, quite frankly. We think there are a lot of opportunities, especially around more client engagement, around AI personalization and things of that nature. So there's a lot of room to run in sort of different directions. Note taker, is a component and a sort of a feature, but it certainly isn't the entire product. So unlike some of the other ones that are purely running towards maybe just the AI assistant sort of path. And so again, like kind of this whole meeting lifecycle component, if you will.
So the company name is GReminders. So now that you have note taking and you're expanding maybe to other AI assistant, do you think you might want to change the name to like G Assistant or G Meetings or something?
Branding is always challenging. You start with something, and the capability and the feature sets and the value that you're bringing to your clients, evolves. But the name doesn't. It is a topic that comes up from time to time. But there's a lot of complexity in brands and things like that. So for the time being, it is what it is. But yes, point taken.
No worries. So congratulations on your news at Osaic. That's huge. They've got 10,000 advisors there. So how did you get that deal, and how does that affect your growth strategy?
So we have two paths of go-to-market. One is through the broker-dealer channel. Osaic and others in that space are a big part of that. So we go work with broker-dealers. We get approval. We work with the compliance departments, governance departments, and so forth to get approval, so that we can effectively put our technology and our tools into their affiliate firms. So we've been approved with Osaic, Cambridge, Kestra, and probably 25 other broker dealers, and we continue to push on that front. We do co-marketing with them, and so forth. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is sort of independent RIA channel, which we continue to work as well. But broker dealers are a big part of our go-to-market, and they've been a great partner to us.
Indeed, we work with both channels as well. That's where we are helping those exact same firms with their tech stacks, making them better, optimizing, improving. So I understand completely. It's a very different sales cycle at a broker dealer or an enterprise RIA versus a single office RIA. And they have different needs, different requirements, different hoops you have to jump through. And once you close a deal with Osaic, the sales process is just beginning.
Yes, it's an indirect sale, but it's a meaningful step. I would also say, participating in a lot of the broker dealer events and so forth has been impactful to us. Again, they're a great ecosystem to be part of, and we'll continue to leverage that.
The Osaic advisors are now going to have a new AI assistant from GReminders, which you're calling Ask Anything. Can you tell us about it? How does it work? What inspired you? How does it change the advisor's daily workflow?
So Ask and Do Anything is really an extension of both the outputs of the call, for example, right? So transcripts, summaries, action items, being able to ask anything on the call as well, what happened, if you have additional questions. But then, if you take that further, which others have done as well, and you do that on the client record, you expand basically the scope of what the system has access to, and it starts to basically become an AI assistant, right, for the advisor. And so typical use cases include pre-meeting prep, So, we'll send out, for example, a pre-meeting brief to the advisor, getting them better prepared for the meeting. If they have additional questions, they can simply go and interface with it using natural English language. Beyond that, it's also an assistant in the sense that it essentially acts like any other assistant. So you can ask it to go make a task for a staff member to follow up, to go get some 401k data, for example. It can automatically create new opportunities for you. It can reassign tasks. It can move dates. It can create new opportunities. It can move stages within opportunities. So a lot of the things that you traditionally would do by maybe navigating to a particular screen, clicking on 17 buttons to get those things to do it. Again, you just tell it and it will just do those for you. And we'll continue to sort of probably build this out to expand beyond just some of the elements that I talked about here. But getting access to additional data sets, and then being able to not just create a task within your CRM or create an op, but actually go take that action. And so there's a relatively large roadmap there that can occupy lots of time, and really it's getting access to systems. We have a lot of the plumbing already. We probably integrate with 35 different systems today. That number is probably going to double over the next 12 to 24 months. And I think the opportunities there are limitless, and it's really just continuing to iterate down that road.
So the Ask Anything feature, the interface it's a chatbot interface, yes?
Yeah,
So
it's you think of it as ChatGPT right on top of your client record. So if I'm working with you, I can ask questions about what is your balances, when are you looking to retire, what are your goals. It has access to sort of all that data, but they can also do stuff. In other words, like, okay, if you want to if you talked about maybe buying another house, or changing a rental property, you could say like, okay, make me an opportunity to do a 1031 exchange, or things of that nature. So it's sort of assistant driven natural language.
So here's my problem with, because everyone's doing something similar. Everyone's got a chatbot interface, and what it's
Yeah.
forcing, turning advisors and everyone really into prompt engineers. And really, advisors aren't really that good. In fact, most people aren't that good at prompt engineering, honestly. It's still English language, but why are we forcing advisors to be prompt engineers? Isn't there a better way to do this?
So I think if you have a good assistant, it doesn't require you to be a prompt engineer. Prompt engineering is a real thing, and we deal with on a regular basis when it comes to code. But we do make recommendations about what types of questions to ask. And so we're sort of prompting, if you will. We're making recommendations on what you can ask. And as you ask questions, we even prompt as potential follow-ups. So you don't even have to type it all out. You can just make a selection from a handful of bubbles that are essentially available to you. But I think the quality, and this is something that needs to be evaluated on a regular basis, is the quality of the outputs needs to be evaluated, and there needs to be a feedback loop, right? That's there. And so, getting an understanding of, was that a high quality output or was that a low quality output? And then iterating on that feedback is really, I think, what sets, the sort of chatbot, quality range is vast, and continuing to iterate on that and making that high quality is very important. And I think to some degree that gets lost, if you're just talking about bots in general.
I'd like to shift gears just a second into compliance. So we've heard some of our larger enterprise broker-dealer clients be concerned about AI tools, especially note takers, recording client calls and then them being on the hook being sued, being audited, and then going back to those calls and finding things that they didn't do right. Are you seeing something similar, and how are you guys handling that when it comes to sensitive client financial information?
We spend a lot of time with compliance departments, and we really lean into this particular area. We've read the FINRA codes, and it's very clear on written documentation. As far as your verbal communication, it's a little slightly less clear. And so compliance departments, from our observation, have really taken, there's two camps. One camp is they don't want anything recorded, they don't want anything stored, and they want to throw it away immediately. The other camp wants to keep it for a long time, right? 7+ years. And the reason that camp wants to keep it for 7+ years, if you didn't do anything bad and somebody accuses you of something, you have evidence to the contrary and case closed. So we're not necessarily opinionated about which camp you want to be in, and each firm has their own posture on what their security or compliance requirements are. What we try to do is be flexible around what the data retention policies can be, and so we give them knobs as far as again, to support their security posture. And so, for example, if you don't want the recording stored at all, we throw it away. The instant we pull the transcript, it's gone. If you want to keep it for 7 years, we'll keep it for 7 years. So we give you a lot of the controls and dials. If you want to make sure that people are asking for consent, we have added controls to understand if either the channel, the mode, in other words, Zoom or Microsoft Teams, was providing automatic consent, or if somebody verbally asked for consent on the call. So we have all kinds of knobs and dials to support different postures, and that's really kind of how we lean into this space.
All right, we're running out of time. I wanted to get another question or two in. You had said in an earlier interview, we're now just witnessing the early stages of AI's impact on the industry. What developments do you predict that we'll see impacting wealth management technology, or maybe our lives in general, over the next few years?
AI is evolving at such a rapid pace. If you look at what is happening in various industries, if you look at what's happening in engineering, how that is being leveraged with regard to AI. AI is writing 67% of the code now, right? And if you see this evolve in other industries, for example, if you're creating financial plans potentially right down the road, AI might be doing half of that work for you. If you think about if you think about modifying plans, just for example, let's take that as an example. You would make maybe some minor tweaks to it, but if you just have AI essentially do something like that automatically, maybe you ask it to rewrite the entire plan, and you do that a few times, and just the way that you interact with the data that you have will dramatically change, right? I think the way that you will operate will be dramatically different over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years than you have been doing today. And if you, in my opinion, and I think others as well, if you don't embrace that way of working, your competitive edge will, to some degree, be reduced. I also think that AI, again, because it gives you a lot of efficiencies, it may open up markets that were previously, you couldn't service them because the cost structure was too high. So I think it just changes the landscape quite a bit, and I think there's just a lot of adapting that will need to happen, and I think we'll all learn as the industry evolves.
Arnulf, last question. Is there anything you can share about your roadmap for the rest of 2025? What can GReminders, current customers, expect to pop up in their new versions of the application?
Um, so I'll say we'll continue to involve all the areas that we're currently working in, both in the scheduling and AI assistant realm. There's lots of roadmap there. I would say, broadly speaking, I would say you could expect more personalization around client communication. Of course, giving the advisor the ability to look before anything gets sent out. But more personalization is really an area that's of great interest to us.
You have said it all, Arna. Thanks so much for being on the program. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's Craig again. Here are my top 3 takeaways from this episode. So we found out that GReminders offers an end-to-end AI-powered meeting management platform, which can save advisors up to 6 hours per client annually. They recently expanded into AI note-taking, another AI note-taker, which is competing in the crowded market, but differentiating through full meeting lifecycle support. We are coming out with an AI note-taker product review in a couple weeks, so we will include GReminders in that. They secured a partnership with Osaic with over 10,000 advisors, highlighting strong growth in the broker-dealer channel. And their roadmap is focusing on increased personalization in client communications and expanding their AI assistant capabilities. And that is it. You've reached the end of another episode of the Wealth Tech Today podcast. Thanks for listening. But before you go, head to our website, EzraGroup.com. Scroll to the bottom of the homepage and sign up for our newsletter. Once a month, you'll receive an email chock full of wealth management goodness, news, information, and updates. You will not be disappointed. Thanks again for listening, and talk to you all again next time.